Hi, I'm Tolulope Kolade, Tcode, an African voiceover artist from Nigeria, and this is my podcast, Everything Voiceovers, the African Perspective Podcast, where I take you on a journey to discovering industry insights through expert interviews, practical tips, and personal anecdotes.
You can simply call this your go-to resource for all things voiceover related. Buckle up as we discover the art, craft, and business of voiceovers through a uniquely African lens on this episode. Enjoy!
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Everything Voiceovers podcast, the African Perspective. This is Tcode, and it's a pleasure to be on the sixth episode of the third season of my podcast. Now, it's been a very interesting journey so far in this 2024, having launched the podcast and seeing the support that I've been getting from you guys. I want to say a very big thank you. Like, the YouTube has been great. We've been getting views and subscribers, and also even on podcast listening platforms like Spotify and Apple. So thank you so much for that. I want to encourage you to keep watching, share this podcast with somebody, subscribe, right? Drop a like, drop a comment, just do everything, because it's because of you that we're doing this, and we need that support. It takes a lot to do a podcast in Nigeria and in Africa, so that's the least you can do for us. Anyways, thank you very much for being a part of this episode. And today, as you can see, my guest is here already. She needs no introduction. She's one of those voiceover artists in Nigeria and even in Africa that you should know if you are neck deep into voiceover in Nigeria. I see her here. I see her in most of the voiceover trainings that we have. Even when I was trying to get into voiceover, she's one of those that I would, check her stuff out and see, okay, she has this done this way. I'll go back and sort of like adjust and stuff like that. So she's just a fabulous person all around. She has a touch of both the old and the new generation. I'm talking about no other person than the amazing vocal expressionist, Stephenie Ugbeye. Hi, Stephenie. It's a pleasure having you.
Hi, Tcode. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. First thing I'm noticing is your T-shirt. Very nice. I like it.
Oh, thank you. Tcode Voiceovers
with Tcode. Yeah, very nice.
Thank you so much, Stephenie. It's a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Before today, we had a very interesting conversation yesterday, and that was so refreshing. I needed to hear some of the things that I heard from you. And for people who have been following the podcasts, one of the things you would hear some of our guests say is that you need a community, you need people, because the voiceover industry can be such that you might easily get into isolation because you're doing stuff, especially if you own a home studio, it's very easy. So I found myself in that space as well, that I needed somebody to talk to, and Steph just had the right words at the right time. So I want to say thank you for yesterday.
Thank you. Thank you, Tcode. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So how's voiceover been for you lately?
Well, wow. So the thing about voiceover is sometimes it's like, sometimes it's like, sometimes it's like, so
yeah.
So right now I would really say that I'm putting a whole lot into perspective. I'm trying to create more than just really do the typical, or I'm trying to get a voiceover gig, apart from just really looking forward to the next thing. I'm also trying to create concepts and stories that can be produced. So I'm thinking I'm aligning more with production now than just, just sticking to my talent mode. Yeah, which I feel is like a growth for me, like another phase, for me to explore. So yeah, that's really what I'm doing right now.
Some of us are thinking like we never even finished this voiceover matter. Vocal expression is on the talk production. Wow, God, when? But thumbs up to you for pushing beyond the barriers of voiceover. It's great to see what you've done in the past couple of years, and I want us to start talking about these things. Let's start from the beginning. How you found voiceovers to be something you would really love to do? Was it while you were growing up? Did you just think that one day I want to be a voiceover artist? or it's something you just stumbled on and you're like, this could be another source of income, or life forced you to do it. So what's your story about voiceover like?
So I would say the first time I ever discovered that I was, that I had interest in using my voice, or that I was passionate about using my voice, was when I was a child, growing up, about 5 years old, 6 years old. My late mom would just read bedtime stories to me. She was a phonetics teacher, by the way. God rest her
Wow.
soul. She would read bedtime stories to me. She would also just supervise my reading activities and just ensure that I'm able to read well, and I'm able to just taking the use of punctuations, my pauses. She would pay attention to all those things. And then she would watch me read out loud, which I really think helped me to develop my reading skills. And I just loved to read as a child. I loved to read. Whenever we would have English classes and we would be having comprehension, I would always volunteer to read some passages, some stories. I would always volunteer to read. And even in high school, the same thing happened. I would always volunteer to read in class. And then I also got exposed to the whole creative process of narration, slipping into other voices, maybe the voice of a mother, the voice of a father, the voice of a child, and so I became more in love or more in tune with reading. I just really loved the idea of reading a book or anything, that I would come across. And I didn't even know that anything about voiceover existed, although I had also been listening to audiobooks because my late maternal grandmom, she used to have this series of audiobooks for my book of Bible stories. I don't know if you ever read that yellow book. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
famous yellow
I know that one.
picture. Yeah, yeah, the biblical picture book.
Yeah,
So
I
there
think
were
it's good
there
news
was a
or something.
series. No, it's my book of Bible stories.
Oh, yeah. I
Yes,
remember
yes.
that one. I do. Yeah. Go on.
Yes. So my grandmom had a series of audiobooks, like the tapes, cassettes. She had a series of them. So I would always read, I would always listen to the narrator and just listen to how he would make transitions, pay attention to his pauses, his nuances and all of that. And I was just really thinking that, oh wow, I'm really enjoying this. So instead of even taking the book and reading it, I would just go ahead and play, the tapes because I wanted to really enjoy the creative process. So I never knew that what I was even doing was listening to an audiobook narrator do his thing. I didn't know anything about voiceover. I had been watching cartoons for the longest time, but I didn't know it was voiceover or voice acting or anything of that sort. So fast forward to many years later when I was interning at a radio station. It's called Confluence Cable Network. It's based in Lokoja in Kogi State. So it's a radio and TV station combined. It's a media outlet. So I was interning at the radio station, and I came across so many jobs would just pop up. I would do sports reads. I would do announcer jobs for churches, schools, and because I love to read, everything just basically came naturally to me, and I was just really enjoying the process, not knowing that there was any profession ever called voiceover, but I just really enjoyed my job as an on-air presenter and, just really doing a whole lot of reads. And that's why I could resonate with the last interview that you had with Agatha when she was talking about working in radio and how that gives you a platform to explore your talents, your potential talents. I totally agree with that because working at the media station, just really the radio and TV station, just really gave me that leeway to explore my talents and to just enjoy the whole process. And that's how I knew that I developed I developed a passion for commercials. Growing up, I'd been listening to a whole lot of commercials on radio, on TV, and just even getting to engage in the process of doing some of these reads at the station. It just made me have this connection, to that genre, for commercials now. And I'm like, oh wow, I think I really enjoy this. Not even knowing that I was going to sign up for training one day and all of that. So eventually, fast forward to when I signed up for training at the Voiceover Academy, I immediately knew that one of my niche areas that I would love to delve into would definitely be commercial voiceover. Yeah, so basically that's how my love for the craft took shape. Yeah.
Okay, so is it safe to say you discovered voiceover as someone who was working on radio? And even if that was the case, when did you decide to pursue it? You mentioned, you just told us from radio, you attended the voiceover academy and got certified. But what made you trust that there was something there? What opened your eyes to the reality of a business from voiceover?
I love that question. Thank you for asking. So what happened is, after my internship at the radio station, I went to further my education, and I got a master's degree. I was studying at the Robert Gordon University in Scotland, and then I came back to Nigeria in 20. But it just seemed like nothing was working out. Like I was looking for jobs, and I wasn't getting anything, and I was just like, oh, what's going on? Like, what's happening to me right now? I was applying to so many PR agencies, but they were all telling me they would get back to me. Nothing was just working. And so at some point I felt really frustrated, and I was like, you know what, I'm leaving Lagos. Maybe I should just like take a break or just leave Lagos for a while and figure my life out. So I went to Delta State. My family house is in Warri, so I went to Delta State, and I was just really trying to figure out my life. Like, oh, okay, I know that I have a passion for using my voice, so what can I do? And then I was working with this independent producer who was producing jingles, announcer jobs on radio and all of that. And I was doing some of these jobs, and I was getting paid, like getting some money from some of these jobs that I would do. And I'm like, okay, so now I'm very curious about this. Like, is there any possible means of monetizing my voice? Like, can I actually get to do this full time? And I was just really curious about it. And I remember just really talking to the producer and asking how often he would get gigs like that. And it was very frequent. Believe you me, it was very frequent. I was always getting paid, getting some money from this job. And then all of a sudden, the guy relocated to Ghana. It was a crazy year. Nigeria was in a recess.
Wow.
It was a very crazy year. And, the guy was just like, one day he just said, you know what, I'm going to Ghana. And that was how
Wow.
I was thinking to myself, okay, so this
What
short-lived
next?
time, when I was enjoying all of this. Okay, so now this producer has left. What do I do now? And that's when I started to like gather all my savings. I was like, you know what? It's time for me to actually come back to Lagos, like go to Lagos, figure my life out with this thing and see if, because I know the advertising agencies are there. Lagos is the center of, it's the hub of business, center of excellence. A lot of these advertising agencies are there. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to pursue this. I'm going back to Lagos, and I'm going to make a living out of this. Not even being certain of the fact that I had where I was going, or had what to do, or I had who to talk to, but I just made up my mind. I was like, I am going back to Lagos. And then I came back to Lagos, rented a mini flat, was living there, signed up for training along the line. Actually, I was sponsored. My course was sponsored.
Wow.
Because I had an audition at AVWA one time, and this lady just really picked interest. She encouraged me, and then she eventually paid for my my course at the Voiceover Academy. So my signing up for any training at all, I owe that to her. I'm always very grateful to her for just really sowing that seed, in my life, and just believing in me, encouraging me, believing that I really had potential, and her just really looking forward to me making essence, making a whole lot of value out, bringing out a whole lot of value out of what I had learned at the academy. I will always be grateful for that. So that's basically how I was just able to like click myself into the whole, plug myself in rather into the whole system, had the training, and then took all the knowledge that I had from there, which basically was to be practical about learning, so all of that knowledge that I took, I just went out into the hustle life, the creative hustle life. And that was it. Job after job after job after job. And then of course I was very much encouraged even before I started hustling for myself. Sheung Shobo gave me my first paid job. It was an announcer job for it was a church live announcement gig. So he gave me my first paid gig, and I remember I bought a phone with that money. I
Wow.
bought a phone with that money. And then I was obviously doing a whole lot of practice, recording, listening back to my recordings, doing a whole lot of playbacks, contacting people, making connections, and just really auditioning a lot. I remember going for a lot of auditions, animation, radio dramas, and it was just really a time to remember. Like, it's a moment that I will never forget. Just really trying to find my foot, try to plug myself into the industry, and just meeting people, and then also like having like minds,
Yeah.
people that share the same vision as you, coming together, building a community. So basically, that's how it just I just got started in voiceover. It wasn't just a training
Yeah.
system kind of idea, but community as well. People telling you, oh yeah, there's this audition happening here tomorrow. Do you want to come along? Just really having people to string along with, and people who would hold you accountable to the stuff that you're doing, and just checking and just ensuring that you're on course. And those are moments that I will always be grateful for.
All right. So just to be sure, this was around 2017, right?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
beautiful.
yes.
So you were in the voiceover industry already at an era where, I mean, because I could say that there was another generation of voiceover artists that just came into the industry, like blasted into the industry around 2020 due to lockdown and all of that. So pre-lockdown, I am guessing that the scene of voiceover in Nigeria, at least, was slightly different from what we have now. I am guessing that that was still an era that we had more of agencies, even though we still have them now. But the major gigs were very agency type ish, going to a studio, moving from one place to another, dropping auditions. Whereas today, a lot of people can just be at their space, audition,
Yeah,
and do stuff.
home
So,
studio. Yeah,
yeah. So tell
yeah,
me about surviving at that time, because obviously there's a difference from we have the internet to our aid. It's not like the internet didn't exist then, but things were still very handy. So
yeah,
what was that experience like, and how were you able to survive in that era? You mentioned community. Was that all
yeah.
there was to it, or something else helped?
So I would just basically say making connections, because it's from the information that you actually get in this voiceover business that we do. That's what enables you to thrive. That's what enables you to have the knowledge about auditions, have the knowledge about trainings, have the knowledge about maybe workshops and all of those things that you can attend, and just fuel your knowledge about the craft. So that I would definitely mention again that networking is very important, because then there were people that would just really reach out to me and say, you know what, this audition is taking place, you might want to check it out if you're interested. And then I would go to these auditions. Many of these auditions were mainly audio dramas, animation, audio drama gigs. Yes, most of these auditions. And so I got to meet a lot of people, because it was an interactive process. It wasn't just an audition where I would just go do a solo read. It was an interactive process, because I would read with other talents. So there was a lot of cold reading, during these auditions, a lot of cold reading. But one thing that I took away from a comparison between that time, before pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, is the fact that it was the talents that were very proactive about their business at the time, that were enjoying the dividends of the gigs that came during the pandemic. Why? Because they had a home studio, and so during the lockdown, they didn't have to worry about, oh my god, I have to step out of my house. All of that. Oh my goodness, I can't leave my house. Nobody. I mean, the people who had a home studio didn't have to worry about that, because they had their setup just within the confinement of their homes. So it was really easy to work with. And I remember also having like my own makeshift thing during the pandemic. Either I was using my brother's car, or I had this like set up in my closet. I built a fort there, and I had this whole microphone, this small microphone, and just a small setup that I used to use to do quick voiceover work. So I would really say that the talents that were very proactive about setting up their studio and all of that, they enjoyed that whole pandemic season. And then it also it opened everybody's eyes to the reality of the new voiceover era, which is to have your own setup, have Source Connect, have, this connectivity system where you can connect with voice directors remotely from any other part of the world. And the fact that just the fact that voiceover is a global village, this voiceover industry that we're in, it's a global village. It's not really about attending auditions in certain states or places, having to commute to those places, but you just actually plugging in from the comfort of your own home. So, yeah, that's
Wow,
it.
well done. I'm enjoying your story and picking a lot of, lessons. Like, if I track back a little, how you even started from listening to your mother read to you. And I think one of the very, very important skills of voiceover artists is the act of listening. A lot of us want to
Yeah.
act it well, but if you listen well enough, you will tell what is right from what is wrong, and then you can apply that to yourself. So kudos to your late mom who did a lot of reading to and then to
Yeah.
your maternal grandmother who helped with the
The
audiobook. Like,
audiobooks.
yeah, I also had that help me some type of way while I was in the university. I would listen to audiobook versions of the Bible, and that really helped me. That really wanted me to even start thinking about this voiceover thing. I just didn't understand how, but I would take the Bible literally and also do my own version of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
audiobook. So I think
Yeah.
two things here. You were you from a very young age developed the habit of listening, and you grew to become a consistent speaker thanks to radio,
Radio. Yeah.
nurturing your voice, and you then continued with the training, and you kept building. So we're going to talk about another version of you. It's still saying you, but it is something that I am happy when I see you do. You rep not just English voiceovers, but you also do very well at repping Pidgin voiceovers. I know you didn't see that coming, but if there's someone who I think has created a lot of content, maybe we can say, I mean, we don't have so many contents regarding Pidgin. A lot of people talk about English. We barely even have contents regarding Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa. So this is a challenge to people who are, very good at those, But I'm talking about Pidgin now. Just the way you would teach Pidgin, I just like, now like this, and I feel you mentioned Delta, Worry, so I could connect the dots, right? So tell me about how you became the Captain America of the Pidgin. This is respectfully speaking. I know there are a lot of people that do Pidgin as well. So please, I'm giving you all your honors. But Stephenie has done a lot in that space as well. So tell me, and you mix it with your content creation, which is another thing you've been doing very well lately. So I want to hear that gist.
So it's funny. The reason why I'm laughing is because I couldn't speak Pidgin. My Pidgin wasn't fluent until when I was probably in my third year at the university when I was studying for my first degree. So it was pretty late. I
Wow.
can't tell you, oh, I'm a Pidgin guru. I've been speaking Pidgin since when I was a child. I really can't
It be like say I
say
get
that.
hope.
Do you understand? Because I remember I remember gaining admission into the university, and then some of my colleagues would be speaking in Pidgin, and then sometimes I'll try to join the conversation, and they're like, "Hey, don't bother, keep speaking English. Don't worry, And then for a while, I was staying in Worry. I stayed in Worry for a while, so I would go to the market. I would go to certain places, and the official language in Warri is Pidgin. It's very normal, even in homes that you have very learned people. It's very normal for them to speak Pidgin. Pidgin is like the official language in Warri, for the most, like in most homes and spaces. In fact, throughout the communities and places, they speak Pidgin. And it was just really weird because I probably would go to the market and I'm trying to buy something. When you're trying to check out stuff that you're buying, and then the market woman is like, "Abeg, no use your right hand take touch am. No use your left hand take touch my market. No use your left hand take touch abeg." And I'm like, why are they so saucy and like why are these market women so why do they have this attitude? And then I started. It was fascinating to me because I started observing them. I started observing their nuances. I started observing, how they would relate to people. So instead of me to even feel like, I don't think this is for me, I was very curious. I was like, okay, you know what? Perhaps I should learn this language because I'm here for a while. I interact with these people on a daily basis. So that is how I started speaking Pidgin. And then gradually it started becoming really fluent. And then the same friends that laughed at me and said, "Hey, don't speak Pidgin." They started getting marveled, like, like say your Pidgin don't they done, like, waiting they happen. And I'm like, say I don't they stay worried now. So they're like, no wonder, because your Pidgin don't they play on, don't they take shape, And so fast forward to when I even had training at the academy. After I had finished training, I was trying to get gigs, in voiceover gigs in English, and then somebody told me one time I did a voiceover gig in Pidgin, and the audio engineer said to me, "Wow, your Pidgin is very fluent." And I'm like, "Oh wow, thank you." And he said to me, "You know what? Why don't you keep looking for voiceover gigs in Pidgin? Not every time English, because that space is even saturated. Before they think of calling you for a gig or contracting you for a job, they have so many people on their roster. They have so many people on their radar. So why don't you even try to keep doing voiceovers in Pidgin?" And I took that advice. And guess what? I was booking more voiceover work in Pidgin than even English language.
Wow.
So that really, again, it opened my eyes to the reality of exploring your voice. Sometimes we think that we're so good for one particular genre, or we are so good at one particular voiceover niche, one particular voiceover niche area. And we forget that we can actually do other things. We can speak our native language. We can speak other languages. We can, make impressions. We have to always open our minds to the possibility of what we can use our voices for, because then we'll be able to find our strengths and then also gain the confidence that we need to keep pursuing that, to keep mastering the art of our craft. Do you understand? So that is how I began to pay more attention to Pidgin, to the extent that I even thought to myself one day that, wow, maybe I can teach people this. So I think my exploration, my fascination about the language, my whole ability to just explore the creative side, and then just really plug myself into it so much that I'm even able to convince myself that I can teach people about this, So basically that's, who would have thought? Who would have thought, Pidgin?
It's a fascinating story. And you've been teaching people, through social media content. I don't know if you've taken that up to, and I don't know if you do one-on-one coaching. I think you do. I think I saw something like that on your website. So do you teach on Pidgin just for people who want to learn Pidgin?
So the Pidgin idea, basically, it came about because I thought about fellow Africans in diaspora who probably want to learn more about it, especially people who are in the art of using their voices, voice actors, voiceover artists, wanting to learn Pidgin, because sometimes a lot of these gigs, there's actually a high demand for Pidgin, more than we know. You have people in India, you have people in other parts of the country, in Dubai, requesting for Nigerian Pidgin talents, So it's more like, if we have more people who can actually do these things, who can speak Pidgin very well, then that's a credit to the industry, So that's how I basically came about the idea that I can teach people have to speak Pidgin. But even
Yeah.
at that, my one-on-one trainings hasn't really like I haven't
Focused
yes,
entirely
I
on
haven't
Pigeon.
taken that up as a focus yet. Yes.
I would say, I don't know, maybe I would say it's an open challenge or something, and probably somebody's thinking about it somewhere, but I would
Yeah. Yeah.
encourage, in fact, they already established voiceover institutions and people who just want to take interest in indigenous voiceovers to do something. As you're saying it, I know that there's a demand out there. People want to learn voiceovers in Igbo, in Yoruba, in Hausa,
Yeah.
in Pidgin, and the different voiceover, different languages that we have in Nigeria and across, the continents. It's okay to do voiceovers in English and even add some spice of accents. You now can do it in different, like literally, Yoruba has different accents. when you listen
Different.
to
Different.
when you listen to somebody
Ijebu.
exactly, it's
Yeah.
different
Ijebu.
from
Mm-hmm.
Ekiti, different
Yeah.
from
Ondo.
Oyo,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even realize that
Yeah.
a few years back that
Yeah.
Igbo is not just
Yeah.
we,
There's
we have
Enugu. There's
yeah
Asaba. There's
Asaba, Anambra. So you need
yeah.
to we need to also open those chapters of
Yeah.
languages, voiceover. Although I think I had this conversation, was it with Blessing Kure in the first season of the podcast, and I think one of the factors is that um, these languages, aside from the top three, the Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo, the others are very local centric. Like
Mm,
I don't know if I would say maybe Efik, for instance, or
yeah.
Tiv.
Yeah.
The voiceovers are going to be used in the areas where that population exists. So the
Yeah.
market share can actually be small compared to
Exactly.
English that is
Yeah.
in demand or Pidgin and all of that. But at least
Yeah.
we can still start from the
We
top.
can.
I
We
mean,
can. We
the most
can.
popular ones. Yeah,
Yes, we can. We can.
yeah. And shout
Yeah.
out to you for doing that. I also,
Thank you.
I also should mention that I learned three things from your last explanation. One is your curiosity. Staying in worry, you began to show some curiosity to why these people are speaking this way. Second is observation. You weren't just curious, you
Yeah.
paid attention, right?
Yeah.
And third is your willingness to learn. So you were curious, you were observant, and you began to take action to learn, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, as you speak, it's also a learning curve, a learning experience, and somebody listening should probably write that down and work on it. All right, let's talk about you venturing into acting. I know
Hmm.
you've been. It's. There's no how we can't separate you from act. I don't know if one says choose one between voiceover and acting. I don't know what you go for, but but you have taken that bold step to push yourself, and you featured on some projects on Nollywood. Some have featured on African Magic, on Showmax, and places like that. How did this come about? And secondly, how has that affected your voiceover career?
Right. So I would just really say that first of all, I would say that your passion just enables everything to work out for you. Your passion, generally, whatever you're doing, because sometimes it can be really confusing when you can do so many things. Naturally, I love to act. I love to play dress up. I remember growing up, I was one of those children that would use cane to flog chairs. Do you understand? Act and make the impression of a teacher. You
Yeah.
know, I did so many impressions growing up. I did impressions of a market woman where you are using sands to cook and then the stones are meat. You know, my grandma yelled to the extent that she just gave up on me and my my cousins, and she's like, you know what, just do whatever you want to do. I did so many. I love to play dress up. I love to read out loud as a child. I love to do so many things that were actually making me realize that I was gravitating towards more of a creative side than I actually realized. That's growing up, because I wanted to be a medical doctor. I always used to say I wanted to be a surgeon. So eventually, I started to gravitate towards the
Art.
creative side more, and then had interest in like news broadcasting, uh, you know, doing a lot of impressions. I did a lot of comedy shows back in high school. I was in the drama club. I was in the dance drama club. So I really enjoy to entertain. I've always loved to entertain people with my voice, with my talents. And then back to your question now. Apart from the fact that I can do voiceovers and that I like to act, there was a time that I really wanted to pursue that. I wanted to pursue a career in acting, but it wasn't working out. I audition after audition after audition, no callbacks, nothing. And then eventually this audition came up. It was the audition for Rihanna. They were looking for actors, and then there was a small specification, just really attached to the audition process for people that could speak Ishekiri. Not that it would be, compulsory or anything, but if you could speak Ishekiri, if you're an actor that can speak Ishekiri, that's an added advantage. And so even when I wanted to attend this audition, I was still having doubts like, you've attended so many auditions, to the extent that I had given up, and I told myself, you know what, I'm going to face voiceover. I'm not going for any acting auditions again, because I was getting no callbacks and just felt like a waste of time. This particular one, I was like, let me just give it a try. And then I did. 2 months later, no callback. And I'm like, I was expecting I wouldn't get a callback. And then all of a sudden, in the 3rd month or something, I just saw an email one day, and I'm like, me? Do you understand? And then they requested another phase of the audition process. I did it, and then they eventually congratulated me and welcomed me on board. And I was like, wow, So then again, I felt more confident because now I was plugged into the whole creative system. Sorry, I've been using the word plug in a lot because really that's basically what this creative process has done for me as a human being. It has immersed me into the whole space. So sometimes a lot of the things that I do, I don't just do them because it's like a personality thing. I feel like it's a calling. I feel like if I don't do this, something is missing. So I did that, and then it gave me the confidence to even like keep doing more auditions, doing more monologues. And for every acting gig that I've gotten, both stage and on camera, I can tell you for a fact that it wasn't like I was so expectant and I'm like, yes, I'll just probably do it and be like, you know what, let's see how it goes. And that's it. I would just say the passion found me, to be honest.
Wow.
Because like I said, I had given up on acting, and I said, you know what, let me just focus on voiceover. Let me focus on what is working. So basically the general point I really want to make is sometimes creatives feel very confused about doing X and Y and Z, and because there's so many things you can do. So it's more like, how do I navigate? How do I do all of these things? Focus on one. Do the one that is working for you. Do the one that you're most passionate about, because it is the passion that would always draw you in. Even when you feel like giving up, even when you feel like this is, you're tired, it is the passion. And then when you do that, so many other channels will open up and it will start making sense, because this creative process is very linked. If you're a video editor, you need that skill to be able to push out your content. I've never been great at editing. I still feel I suck at editing, but I use the knowledge that I have to create whatever is in my head. However I see it getting depicted, I try. So if you're an audio engineer or you have tech skills, it will come in handy. Why? Because after doing your voiceover, you need to edit your work. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you have good customer service skills, which you still need to develop, even if you don't have them, because even if you don't have it, because you still have to relate to clients, it will come in handy. So no knowledge is wasted. There's an array of skills that you need to develop as an artist, especially in voiceover. I can list like 10 for you. You have to be a proofreader. You have to have listening skills. You have to have interpersonal skills because you're dealing with people. You have to have tech skills to edit your work. You have to have customer care skills because you're, communicating with clients, sending out emails. You have to, have, like I said, listening skills so that you can listen to your voice director, have the ear of the consumer so that when you're doing your job, it's like, will I buy this if I were the consumer? Do you understand? So you're listening both ways. Do you understand? There's an array of skills. Proofreading, researching. Whenever you get a voiceover gig, you need to research the job that you're doing, your audience. You need to do all of that. So there's a great deal of responsibility on your hands as an artist. And the best way to approach your activities is to just look at it from that angle, not basically the jobs that you're getting or what you're hoping to get, but the value that you can give, and all of these skills that you can actually hone, in order to gain that confidence and for you to master the art of being in your creative space, So basically that's it.
You're already giving us some lectures, and I enjoyed it. Thank you. So I'll tell you another thing I learned from this particular one. One of the things that has been constant in everything you're saying is the fact that you kept shooting your shots via auditions. You were auditioning both for the acting gigs, voiceovers, moving from one place to another. And I know some people are curious there will be a question lingering, especially for new talents. How do they find out about auditions? Do you mind just touching on that? Because there are about like 2 more things I want us to discuss, and we've been here for a long time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So I always tell people that you need information to thrive. It really doesn't. It's not really about voiceover in life generally. If you're not putting yourself in a position whereby you're getting information, you'll get stuck. You'll be clueless. You will be frustrated even because it just feels like maybe you are just in a world of your own. You're running a one-man show and nothing is, you're not able to get any information. So you always need to put yourself in communities or situations whereby you're getting information. Where are these communities, or what are these communities? Your WhatsApp communities. I mean, if you've had training, there's always like an alumni network, or there's a group of people that you can associate with from time to time. That's that. Some notable persons in the industry, in the persons of Remi Olutimai, Jennifer Canary with the Volk network. I'm mentioning these people because they've built networks that you can actually belong to.
Yeah, and Remi.
And whenever,
Remi is Voice Acting Africa.
Voice Acting Africa. Yeah. Yes. So you can actually join these communities. And then you have the online communities as well: Twitter, X, the Spaces, Clubhouse, LinkedIn. Gone are the days that you just say, you know what, there are no voiceover gigs. That's a lie. There's no excuse these days because there are voiceover gigs everywhere.
Everywhere, true.
On Discord, if you're into animation or you really, really are interested in voice acting for animation, there's a lot of gigs that pop up by the second. Do you understand? And I see these things every day. It's not like I'm just making it up. It's there. The evidence is there. But sometimes we need to, I think that we just really have to have an expansive thinking process. Yes. Because sometimes you think that, the voiceover gigs are just here. No, they're not just here. They are like this. Do you understand? It's like a halo over your head. You just really need to follow through and see what's going on. Do you understand? So if you're not on LinkedIn, then now you have to start thinking, maybe I should sign up on LinkedIn so I can see the opportunities that are there. If I'm not on Twitter, I probably need to join because opportunities are everywhere, And then I always tell people that word of mouth form of advertising ever, Social media is great. Every other mode of advertising and promotional services are great, but word of mouth, fantastic. How many people know what you do? How many people know what you do? Do you go about telling people, I do voiceovers? And when you tell people you do voiceovers, are you specific about the niche areas that you specialize in? Because voiceover is a very vast field. And no matter how talented you are, you can't do everything. You can't touch everything. I know people that can do several areas. I can do several areas as well, but you can't do every single area. So you need to be very specific about the niche areas, the areas that you specialize in, so that people can know how to hire you. So the people in your church know, the people in your communities know, do your family and friends know, do your enemies know? Do you know your enemies can recommend you? Tcode?
True. I know, right?
Your enemies can go, I hate that guy. I don't like him. I hate him so much. But he's very good. But he's very, very good. That guy is sabi voiceover. The guy good is sabi. Do you understand? So there's levels to these things. It's not just, don't keep that information to yourself. Because whenever you feel like, you want to do it by yourself, you want to, you start thinking one-sided, then you're doing yourself a disservice, and then you're not getting any information, nothing, you're not getting any results. You're not even encouraged to do anything. So you need information to thrive, and you can always steer your career in the direction that you want it to go.
Wow.
So if you're somebody who's only thinking in your local sphere and looking for opportunities within your local community or space, which isn't a bad thing, and you're comfortable with it, that's fine. But if you also want to branch out and gain international recognition and book work on international platforms, that information is there. There are platforms like the pay-to-play sites like Voquent, Fiverr, voices.com, Voice 123, Upwork, Bodalgo. These sites are there. So you need the information, because if you don't even know, how can you sign up on those platforms? So you need information at every single point in time. And then again, you also need to update your knowledge about the occurrences in the industry, because there's always a dynamic process at every point in time. Many years ago, people were doing announce reads, welcome to the, but now it's more like, okay, how do you relate to this? Is a new display. But now it's more like, how do you communicate with people in a believable manner, in a relatable manner, without making it so pitchy and silly and all of that. So that's that. And then there is AI. I know everybody's angry and saying, a lot of artists are like, no, AI is taking our voices, AI is taking our opportunities. But have you ever thought about how you can think about the potential, of what AI can possibly bring to this industry, and how you can play a part, how you can play a role in that? Are you being dynamic in your thinking? These are things that you need to always think about from time to time. Be 10 steps ahead, be proactive about keeping up with the trends in the industry. That's basically it.
Proactiveness, that's the word. And willingness to search for information. So this will prompt me to mention, because as we're having these conversations, I'm seeing it not just as a point of challenge to the listener who is a voiceover artist, but also to people who can help us, solve the problem. And here's what I mean. For instance, the other time I was talking about how people into the Pidgin and Indigenous languages can start training people just so that knowledge is more attainable. People who also are skilled in media and communication can apply that in becoming hubs for information dissemination. Like, do we have voiceover blogs? Do people write articles about voiceover? Right. Although if you follow certain individuals, they write about voiceovers from time to time on their LinkedIn or wherever. And just to mention, credits to places like VALC, like you mentioned, that's the Voice Actors League of Kenya, Voice Acting Africa by Remi Olutumai. VALC is by Jennifer Canary. Yeah. This also, drove me to starting Voiceverse NG, which is for now
that's been awesome.
Thank you. Existing on Instagram and on TikTok. So what we do basically is we're like an aggregator. Voiceover works from voiceover artists. We amplify, so we repost, and if there are auditions and opportunities and tips and tricks, all of those things, we just aggregate and repost, so that sort of we're documenting these things, and people also have access to this information. And then the podcast is here for you guys. So it's a challenge, and I know that we have what it takes. Shout out to APVA, that's the Association of African Podcasters and Voice Actors. At APVA as well, we've been doing a lot of work to help make information accessible to African talents. We're building resources, both in books, audiobooks, downloadables, articles, and all of that. Anyways, that's that about that. Almost an hour talking to Stephenie, and it's been
1 hour. Well, really, we've been here that
long. Give or take, say 45 minutes or 40.
Oh wow! Wow.
But then a great conversation. We can't also look away from your achievements. You have been phenomenal in the past few years. Just last month, I think you were the face of the Respond magazine. Was it last month or this month now?
It was APVA. Last month, yes, the women's special, yes.
Yeah, for APVA, and that is just one of the many things that you have been able to accomplish 2022, you were nominated for the Sovas Awards. 2023, you won that award, the Sovas Awards. That was another
Abba.
year. Yeah, you won even APVA Awards to 2023.
Yeah.
So I just, apart from, let me start by saying that congratulations to you on your wins,
Thank
and
you.
I want you to, as brief as possible, give us tell us about what it takes to get those things. Not even just because they are achievements that everybody wants to, I don't get this, I don't get this. But there's a story behind. So I
Yeah.
need you to
Yeah.
tell me about how you achieved this acknowledgement and what they have also done to your career as a voiceover artist.
Right. Thank you for this question, Tcode. It's somewhat deep for me because I personally feel that every day or every activity that I encounter in voiceover is where the achievement lies. So it's not up until when there's a Sovas, award show or ABVA award season. It's not really about the awards. It's about the little things. Investing in the little things and the little moments that count. Okay, so people need to think about two things mainly: investment. How much time, how much of yourself can you give to the process? Because what most people think about is taking out of the process, taking, but what do you have to give? How much of time can you invest in the process? Because it is this investment that would bring the rewards and get you the results, to enable you to be result oriented. It's the investment, and then the investment also enables you to have a winning mindset. So there are workshops that take place in the US. We have different time zones. So sometimes these workshops are taking place at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Are you willing? Can you sacrifice 1 hour of your time just to listen to whatever training or whatever topic that is going to be discussed that can help you? There are conferences that take place here and there. We have Voiceover Africa. Can you pay money? Can you pay some money? Can you save some money? Let me start from there, because sometimes you might think about it that, this is a lot of money. Can you save some money? Can you save towards it? You have an idea of when these conferences take place. Can you save towards it and say, you know what, I'm investing this money. I want to gain knowledge. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you are into animation or into some of these niche areas, can you hire a coach that can train you, for you to be able to master your art? All these things are investments. Do you understand? I was telling you the other day that for the Sovas nomination that I got, I made 3 entries. 2 out of those 3 entries, I was thinking I was going to be nominated at least in one of those categories. And I did not get any nominations in those categories. The category that I got nominated for was a category that I had volunteered to do a voiceover gig for. Do you understand? I volunteered to do a voiceover for a group of students who didn't have the money or have the means to get it done. And I told them, I said, you know what? I'm going to do this job on one condition: that you get me to a quality studio. You pay for quality studio time and a quality studio session, because I am not going to do rubbish work. Do you understand? I'm not going to do shitty work. I'm not going to compromise on the quality of audio. And that's what they did. Whenever you do voiceovers and you're submitting them to all of these award submissions, like One Voice Award, Sovas, are you paying attention to the quality of your audio? Sometimes all these things count. It's the investment that counts. Whatever you're doing, do it well. Do it well. There's no rocket science to this thing. It's just really what it is. Invest in time, invest in the process, invest in quality, because you only get what you give. Do you understand? You only get what you give. So investment, having a winning mindset, helps you to be result oriented. In the course of my career, I have trained people that have disabilities, people that are visually impaired. I've been able to train them. That's an achievement for me. Why? Because I got to connect with so many talented people, who despite their disability have something to give. And I've watched them do a whole lot of great things. Do you understand? I have watched, one of them works in radio,
Yeah.
one of them is I've seen this. So that's an achievement for me. It's not really about the awards. It's not really, but the day-to-day activities. I've been in studios where I've worked with Jemima Osunde, MI, She Girl, and that's like, wow. I've worked with Cobams a couple of times. He has directed me a couple of times. That's an achievement. So these everyday processes, the little things that count, delving, doing auditions, going for auditions, meeting people that I have never met in my life, social media friends that I have met for the first time at one event. That's an achievement. Having to collaborate with so many people to create. In my very first years as an artist, I did a lot of collabo work with Femi Bakes, with Crow, an animator, because I was like, I can't always keep waiting for clients to book me for work. What can I create? And then I, formed an alliance with these other guys, collaborated with them, and we'll come up with certain ideas and just put it out there. So collaboration is key too.
Wow.
When you always have the me mindset, you might just feel trapped. But get out there, work with people, have a collaborative mindset. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I always sound like I'm so sorry. I don't know when I get lost. I sound like I'm feeling it's not a TEDx talk, is it? It's not like it's.
No,
I'm sorry. Maybe I should speak Pidgin. Maybe I should speak Pidgin. Maybe I should be speaking Pidgin.
You don't have to be sorry. I feel like you are a gift that keeps on giving. And that's why you just have a lot to keep saying. So it's a pleasure to listen to you. Like, this is one interview I'm going to go back to, many times again to learn and learn and learn. And I want to appreciate you for that heart to give. And in giving, you've also been rewarded, and the circle just keeps continuing. So another thing I'm learning from this is give to your craft, give all you've got, and also give to the world. You've been giving via these trainings that you do. You didn't mention it today, but you did tell me how, sorry if I mentioned this on the podcast, how you sponsored someone. That's part of giving. You're giving to your society, in your content creation, in sharing of information. So that's a beautiful thing to embrace. And again, I'd say thank you for doing all of this. We are coming to the end. By the way, I just wanted to mention, I'm putting this out there because she said collaboration and you mentioned collaborating with animators. So Tcode is open to collaboration with animators. So if there are animators listening to this right now, please shoot me an email. Let's work together. My personal email is tcode70@.com. So let's bring this to a wrap. You've had at least 7 strong years in the voiceover industry and counting. Your 2017 version is different from your 2024 version, even though you're the same person. If you could go back to 2017 to talk to yourself, the 2017 Stephenie, what are the advice you would give her, knowing what is lying ahead?
Wow. First of all, I would congratulate the Stephenie of 2017 for taking that bold step. For me, it was more like, what, I don't have any other avenue to take. This is like the only route for me right now. That's how I felt as at the time that I did that training and I was focusing on voiceover. So first of all, I would congratulate that Steph. And then, if I would give the Stephenie of 2017 any advice, I would just really say, be kind to yourself, be easy on yourself. That's the advice I would give the Steph of 2017. Be kind to yourself, because I remember doing a whole lot of, I was double booking myself. The thirst was like so deep, so deep. And I learned so many lessons from that, because there were times that I did so much work that it started affecting my voice, because I was diagnosed with laryngopharyngeal disease in that same year when I started doing voiceover, and it really affected my voice for a while, to the extent that I was out of job for about 6 months plus. I wasn't doing voiceovers. And so I would say, and I felt so defeated. I felt somewhat irrelevant. Like, what else can I do now? Like, what is this? Because I knew I was so passionate about doing more, and then all of a sudden it just felt like, oh wow, so what now? And then I started to learn to be more kind to myself. And by being kind to myself, I started to realize that, what? I was telling you about how I wanted to start a podcast myself, how I wanted to start a voiceover podcast. But because of this reason, I had to like lean back, and I was like, what? You can't talk excessively. Like, you can't sustain this. Yes, you can actually do this, but can you sustain it? And I'm like, no. Why? Because I have to also watch out for my vocal health. Talking excessively is going to cost me a whole lot of issues, complicated issues. So I started to learn to be kind to myself. I don't do a whole lot more than I feel I can do at a time, So if I can't do long form, I focus on short form. I check my capacity, If I can't do the work, I can easily recommend or refer someone else. Do you understand what I'm saying? If I can't do voicing, I'm ready to be part of the back end, the creative back end. What can I do there? You mentioned something about writing articles. That's something I want to also like do now, in contribution to obviously the ABVA community and some other platforms where I can put together a piece and just put it out there. That's not voiceover, but it's part of the creative process. There's knowledge that can be used, So I would really tell that, Stephenie, what? Check out other creative avenues. Be kind to yourself and just, plug yourself in the entire creative process without thinking too hard about it.
Wow. Yeah. Congratulations again for how far you've come and you didn't give up. I remember listening or watching you talk about the disease that was it last year or 2 years ago, and how you were able to battle it, and you're a victor now. And just for context, right, this is something that affects the voice, the lungs and the voice, right? Or the
vocal cords, yeah.
The vocal cords, particularly. Yeah. So, for people who don't know, there is actually a disease that affects. So we need to be very conscious and be very healthy with our vocal cords. And just listen to Stephenie's story. I don't know what to say again, but I am grateful for having this conversation with you. And thank you so much for spending your time and sharing your story. It's a beautiful one from the one and only, the vocal expressionist. That sounded like a rhyme.
Thank you so much, Tcode, for having me. Thank you so much. And then again, one thing I want to say before we go is remind yourself about who you are. Always remind yourself. Just looking at your t-shirt, that's what reminded me again. I remember also setting up like a shop, a voiceover shop, a while ago, where I was selling stickers, mugs, all of those creative stuff. Now, I'm not trying to push, anything to you, about selling and all, but remind yourself of who you are. If you have a sticker, if you have a t-shirt, with your logo, or with your maybe your talent name on it or something, or some kind of poster with your voice attributes that you can just look at, and, it just really reminds you of why you started, reminds you of how relevant you should be in the creative space. Please just go ahead, remind yourself. Look at my door. You see those stickers? Those are voiceover stickers. I just paste them on there. So sometimes when I do voiceovers, I remember why I exist. This is my purpose in life.
Wow.
Little things like that. Decode voiceovers with Tcode. Someday when you get to your house and you're just tired and you're like, oh, what a long day, you just come across the t-shirt, Decode voiceovers with Tcode. Oh, my podcast. I have a purpose.
Yeah.
Always surround yourself with things that, remind you of your passion, and just, remind yourself.
Remind yourself. Church, I go be our mommy.
Gospel. Be your gospel.
I'm
run.
telling you. be open to learning. There's so many things to learn from this podcast. I remain Tcode. I just want to encourage you again, drop a comment if you really enjoyed this episode. Drop a comment, tag Stephenie, the vocal expressionist on Instagram. Search for her on LinkedIn. The links will be in the show notes. I'm going to drop the links to our website and every other places that you can find that, at least that I know. So search for her, tag her, comment, and subscribe. Share this podcast with somebody else. Let's keep growing this voiceover community and spreading the information. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.